ghana.online.com. The news is brought to you by UMB Bank, UMB Digi App, Let's Go, Telesol 4G, proudly Ghanaian, Telesol, Just a Touch, and Mark Auto Parts Ghana, distributors of Isuzu and Chevy cars. Mark Auto Parts Ghana with you for the long run. Coming up in this edition, months after its sweeping reforms and shutdown of banks in the country, Bank of Ghana reviews the financial industry is stronger in the wake of measures it took. We'll get details of the ongoing Joy Business Financial on the course, the cleanup in the financial sector. We'll get details of that. And could this be what has been holding back the politicians from passing the RTI bill for more than 13 years?
Ministers can't operate. Governments cannot proceed effectively. Governance cannot take place meaningfully with this sort of abattoirs riding around here.
Members of Parliament confirm fears of many, including civil society, about the reluctance of the two main political parties to pass the bill. We'll speak to the RTI coalition on this. Director at the Transformation Program's Office of the Ghana Police Service blames interference by politicians with work of police for failure to crack down on vigilante groups.
And when you didn't arrest them, behind the scenes, they come and tell their own people and find a way of taking them. Our hands are tied, and yet you expect the police to be professional. How can that be?
We also have sports.
Veteran football administrator Nana Faith says Kwesi Nyantakyi deserves FIFA's lifetime ban and fine, and that the former Ghana FA president has no business appealing the sentence.
3 children, including 2 sisters, left traumatized, with one said to have fainted after being defiled by a taxi driver in the Bono Ahafo region. We'll bring you details as father of the children demands harsh punishment for the perpetrator. All that and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau.
I wish to commend this House for the passage of numerous legislation, including the recent Public Financial Management Act, which strengthens our hands in the fight against corruption. I must, however, point out that public and civil society organizations are disappointed in our inability to pass the Right to Information Bill and are still hopeful that before this Parliament is dissolved, a consensus can be found to pass this bill into law.
The Right to Information Bill. After many years of hesitation, we intend to bring a bill again to Parliament and work to get it passed into law before the end of this meeting of Parliament.
Voices of the leading figures of the 2 main political parties, former President John Dramani Mahama and President Akufo-Addo, expressing concern and commitment on the passage of the Right to Information Bill. The bill remains in Parliament 14 years after it was introduced to the House, despite several promises and pledges by the 2 main political parties to have it passed. As Parliament reconvened earlier this week, Majority Leader Osei Mensah Bonsu indicated that the MPs will not be pressured to speedily pass the bill into law. His comments followed the prevention of members of Media Coalition on Right to Information from entering the House to pile pressure on MPs.
When we came for the recall, when we were adjourning, I said to us that when we came back, we'll be dealing with that. And that exactly is what we are going to do. It is not as if anybody is pressuring us. No, we are going to do it. And we know we have about 2.5 weeks before the submission of the budget. In between now and then, we intend to finish it.
Shouldn't you be responding to the pressure and be acting?
What pressure? We believe we know what we must do. We know what we must do. We are not responding to any pressure. We know what we must do, and we'll do it.
That's the Majority Leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu. Well, he's not the only one on the majority side which is dragging his feet on this matter. NDC MP for Kumbungu, Ras Mubarak, believes other issues should be resolved before the RTI is considered.
Consideration be made, so it be brought forward as the second item, considering, judging by the hue and cry and public interest in having the Right to Information Bill passed. Now, Mr. Speaker, having said that, I was also expecting to see a report of the Communications Committee on the consideration of the Budapest Convention, which has not been looked at for a long time.
So those are some MPs, both on the majority and minority side, speaking about the RTI bill. But just yesterday, Adansi Asokwa MP Katie Hammond gave the clearest indication the MPs are not committed to passing the bill. Katie Hammond is warning governance in the country will grind to a halt if Parliament passes the RTI bill into law. Parliament is considering the bill for passage, but Mr. Hammond tells Joy News passing the RTI bill will not be in the interest of the country.
Ministers can't operate. Governments cannot proceed effectively. Governance cannot take place meaningfully with this sort of, I don't got a sword of whatever hanging at this albatross riding around you. Understand, you need a peace of mind to run a government. You need to concentrate to run them. If you have a bill like, bring this, before the ink even dries on it, somebody's asking for it, bring this document. This or that. How you, to the extent that we're talking about communication between president and the vice president, the cabinet and this and that, potentially you can have, so there will be no secret in government. It isn't everything that the public is interested in, which is in the public interest, we should be careful about that,
So you heard there, Adansi Asokwa MP. So should we resign ourselves to the fate that the bill will never be passed? I've been joined on the line by the Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. He's also a member of the RTI Coalition, Suleiman Brahima. Thank you very much for your time here on the Midday News. So what do you make of Katie Hammond's comments? Does it finally confirm our fears about the reluctance of the two main political parties to pass the RTI bill?
No, my first impression about the comment is that it's either the Honorable MP is himself confused about what the RTI or what an RTI law would seek to do, or he is an ardent opponent to transparency in governance, or perhaps both. I say this because I should by now think that the Honorable Member of Parliament, and indeed almost every MP, would know that this is not a novelty we are trying to introduce in Ghana. Indeed, quite a number of the countries around us in West Africa have had right to information legislation passed and enacted into law. Indeed, many of the European countries that we look up to for aid and for donor funding and so on, some of them have had right to information law in existence, some for more than 100 years, some even for more than 200 years. Now, when he says that governance will grind to a halt and so on and so forth, Nigeria passed their right to information law in 2011. Nothing has happened. If anything at all, it is contributing to empower citizens to access information that would be meaningful for their lives. Liberia has done it. They went through a peaceful transition in the last election, and governance is continuing. Sierra Leone did in 2010. They just recently had, election resulting in a peaceful transition. They've had several natural disasters and serious issues that they've managed to deal with it. So I don't know what he's talking about, but that is why, as I said, I come to the conclusion that, first of all, is either he himself is confused about what the RTI bill and the law would seek to do, or that he is somebody who is a strong opponent when it comes to transparency and accountability in governance.
Of course, he's not alone, Suleiman. We've heard the majority leader saying that they will not bow to any pressure. But this is a question we always ask at the beginning of each session of Parliament. But I'll ask again, are you hopeful that the RTI bill will be passed within this Parliament sitting?
I am hopeful to the extent that Ghanaians are continuously demanding that what is their right be given to them. I am hopeful to the extent that Ghanaians are saying, we sent you to Parliament to represent us and to represent our interests and do things that are in our interest and not things that you think is good for us. And to the extent that Ghanaians are persistent in the demand that, look, right to access information is a fundamental right and we must have it. It will contribute to ensure that our well-being and livelihoods are improved. It will ensure that we are having an eye on how the resources belonging to us are being managed and are being utilized.
Thank you very much, Suleiman Brahima. He's Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, also a member of the RTI Coalition. But let's stay a while longer in Parliament because the Youth and Sports Committee has summoned officials of FIFA Normalization Committee to come and respond to questions on recent developments in Ghana football. The move comes on the back of the lifetime ban on former GFA President Kwesi Nyantakyi. My colleague Joseph Opoku Gakpo is in Parliament for us and joins us on the line. So tell us a bit more about the summoning of the Normalization Committee.
So this is an item that's been tabled for next week, Tuesday, November 6th at 10:30 a.m. when we're expecting that the Committee for Youth and Sport will be meeting members of the FIFA Normalization Committee. And from what we gather, they are supposed to give an update on the progress of work so far with what they've been doing, even as they prepare to round up their work in the next 6 months.
And what is this that we're hearing about an investigation of a contractor over some 1.6 million Ghana cedis for the new Edubiase Stadium? Tell us a bit more about it.
Yes, so there's a question that the Minister for Youth and Sports, Kwame Asiamah, is expected to come respond to on the progress of work on the new Edubiase Sports Stadium. He's currently in the House and he's expected to appear before MPC movement from now to respond to that question. But in his written response to the question on the progress of work on the new Edubiase Sports Stadium, he said, and I'm quoting these two paragraphs from the statement, he says, the funding of the project was not captured in the ministry's budget for 2015 and 2016, and there is also no evidence of sponsorship for the project. The source of funding, therefore, remains unknown. Then he goes on to say, upon further inquiries, it was disclosed that the amount so far paid to the contractor, totaling 1.6 million cedis, was received in cash from the then Minister for Youth and Sports, and that the matter has been referred to the National Security for investigation regarding the source of funding. And then he goes on to say they are committed to completing the particular sports stadium. We expect to get more details on this when MPs quiz him on the floor any moment from now.
Now, finally, just before we let you off, Joseph, we understand also that they've been considering the ministerial vetting report. What more has come up on that?
6 of them, including the Information Minister designate Kojo Ponkroma, approval is expected to be given any moment from now because the MPs are debating the report of the appointment committee. Once again, the minority team are raising concerns about how come they think that the Deputy Minister for the Boda Hafo region, his appointment was unconstitutional because there was no consultation with a substantive minister before the appointment. But the majority side have been reacting to that. Samuel Atachia is insisting that that is not mandatory on the president to do, and the debate is still ongoing. We wait to see what the outcome of it will be before the approval.
Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku Gakpo. Now, corruption cannot be completely stamped out. It can only be limited. That's an admission by speakers at an event to mark African Youth Day celebration in Accra. According to them, though the canker is in the past and is still robbing the country of millions of development money, the youth can commit to changing the story. Senior Civic Education Officer at the NCCE, Alexander Owusu-Siao, wants the youth to take the lead and resolve to expose any acts of corruption wherever they find themselves. My colleague Komla Adom is at the event. He'll be joining us shortly with details on that, but we'll get to hear from Alexander Owusu, who is the Senior Civic Education Officer, among speakers who are admitting that corruption cannot be completely stamped out but only be limited. Komla Adom joins us on the line. So Komla Adom, what else has come up for this discussion? But interestingly, how did they come to the conclusion that corruption cannot be completely stamped out?
MFI, it's a very interesting perspective they bring to the discussion on corruption, I must say. And for the young people who are here, they say that a lot of the corrupt activities we find happening in the public sector are enabled by many young people. So while the officials at the top, at the helm of affairs, are carrying out or perpetuating these corrupt practices, they engage young people to do this. And so the understanding from the discussions that's been going on here is that for corruption to be stamped out, these young people who sometimes are enablers to these corrupt activities must themselves do a self-retrospection, call themselves back, and then call out some of these individuals who sometimes contract them to engage in these corrupt practices. And so they say that even without the officials in public office at the top engaging in corruption, in our own small corners as young people, we engage in corrupt practices like identity fraud, exam malpractices, and some of these things are so basic that we do them without even knowing
When we disabuse the minds of the grassroots, they will understand that they don't need to support what is wrong, whether it is organized by party A or party B. And that is what we are doing. Can we eliminate or limit corruption? We may not be able to completely eliminate corruption because it is difficult to see what somebody is doing somewhere. But at least we can limit it so that the resources that must develop our country, we can have more into conference for development. When we limit corruption, then we improve development. So that is the target, to reduce it so that development can be improved.
You're still listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. Now, the director at the Transformation Programs Office of the Ghana Police Service, ACP Dr. Benjamin Agodjo, says policemen are unprofessional due to interference by various political parties and government appointees in their work. This, he explains, makes it impossible for them to crack down on vigilante groups since they sometimes receive calls from politicians when they effect arrests. The police service has over the years come under intense criticism for failing to deal ruthlessly with political vigilante groups that cause mayhem. Now, speaking at a roundtable discussion organized by the Institute for Democratic Governance on the topic, Breaking the Cycle of Vigilantism in Ghanaian Politics, ACP Dr. Benjamin Agodjo says the police service cannot be entirely blamed for its unprofessionalism.
They say things that they are really not saying. Do they say things that they mean? And what are they not saying that they are really, really saying? These are issues you must consider. So when somebody tells you, go and arrest and prosecute them, do they really mean an arrest and prosecution? And when they say, don't go, or they don't even say anything, what does it mean? We need to appreciate all that thing. So vigilante groups, we must understand, are the heart of control of political parties, almost taking the place of foot soldiers. And when we know the history of that, they either work for such parties to win elections, or their support is required for parties to win elections in future. And that is the reason why they say they are our own people. After everything, they will tell you they are our own people. Once they help a party to win an election, they constitute themselves and have a support base within the winning party. Since the vigilante groups constitute a mobilizing force that might be needed for another election, and we are gearing up for another election, the party structure hardly condemns the activities and are careful in making pronouncements against them. And when you didn't arrest them, behind the scenes, they come and tell their own people and find a way of taking them. They act in full belief that they have the full support of their party. And it is also clear that some form of radicalization has taken place over the years that make them act without any fear at all. If nothing is done to stop this menace, we'll be witnessing what I call rule of political parties instead of rule of law. And it is already happening. You cannot tie the hands of the Ghana Police Service with the kind of constitutional arrangement that we have and expect them to be professional. Our hands are tied, and yet you expect the police to be professional. How can that be?
You have ACP Benjamin Agodjo. Now, months after its sweeping reforms and shutdown of banks in the country, the Bank of Ghana has reviewed the financial industry is stronger in the wake of measures it took to clean up the system. Deputy Governor Elsie Awaji says the industry is better off for its, as she reviewed, they are continuing to monitor the other banks to ensure they meet the minimum capitalization requirement by close of the year. Madam Awaji was speaking at the Joy Business Financial Services Forum on the theme, the changing tide of Ghana's financial services sector, the costs, and the cleanup. Ebenezer Sabote is at the forum and joins us with more. Just before the midday news came on, we heard the Deputy Governor speaking about these issues. But how are participants responding to these claims?
Hello, Mr.
I'm asking how participants responded to the reforms by the Bank of Ghana.
Okay, so many of the participants here think the reforms are in the right direction because when you look at the sector was facing so many challenges with so many non-performing loans and all that. So it is good we reform the sector before moving forward. If you recall, the Bank of Ghana itself came out clearly to say that the industry is moving forward and there's a need for us to repair the sick banks before moving forward. Not only the banks, but also the insurance sector and the savings and loans sector. If you could, also recall, there was a time when the regulator took away, they revoked licenses of some banks and then merged it into consolidated bank. Yes, some participants also think that was the best move because it has actually saved the system.
You have Ebenezer Sabute there bringing us details from the Joy Business Financial Services Forum on the theme, the changing tide of Ghana's financial services sector. Meanwhile, the Deputy Finance Minister, Charles Edu Boahen, has been explaining the government's delay in paying road contractors.
I just wanted to clear the air about this IPC thing before, it's become a chicken and egg situation. A lot of the contractors, knowing that government will delay in paying, build that into their quotation. So you realize you have a situation where, this road should be cost, 10 million to construct. They'll bid at 13 million or 14 million, and they'll all bid at the same 14 million, putting in there that buffer of 4 million because they've already assumed that it's going to take government 18 months to pay me. So we end up having the valuations or the contract sums be higher than they normally should be because of government's delays in paying. And that is a problem that we've identified, and we've realized that we need to address it. So we have to be a little more quick in paying bills. But how to do? It depends on the revenue. If the revenue is not coming, I have to find
it like 3 months, maybe.
Oh, I would love to do that. You know what I mean? And we're working on it. And another thing is also to use a more bidding process to offer some of these contracts, because that's where you then get the best price. Prior to us coming in, a lot of contracts were awarded on a sole source basis. On a sole source basis, you're at the mercy of the contractor. He doesn't have any competition. He will charge you whatever he.
You heard the Deputy Finance Minister, Charles Edu Boahen. You're still listening to the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM, also live across the country on a number of affiliates and also around the world on myjoyonline.com. Stories we've covered so far. Bank of Ghana reviews the financial industry is stronger in the wake of measures it took to clean up the system. We heard from the Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana. Also, we raised concerns about the RTI and the inability of Parliament to pass it 14 years after. We heard case in point, Katie Hammond. And still to come, 3 children, including 2 sisters, left traumatized, with one said to have fainted after being defiled by a taxi driver in the Bono Hafu region. We have details after the break.
My name is Kwame Sefakai, and most of you know me as a media personality, but I am also a family man. The UMB mobile banking app, UMB Speed App, saves me so much time by letting me do almost all of my banking transactions on my phone. The cardless withdrawal feature allows me to withdraw cash from any UMB ATM without an ATM card. I can also pay bills, transfer money, request for a loan, invest money, and so much more. So now, I can spend less time at the bank and more time with the ones I love. Bank anywhere and anytime with a UMB mobile banking app, UMB Speed App, and get the time to do what you love most. Download the UMB Speed App from your Android, iOS, or Windows phone today. Call 0302-633-988 for more information. UMB Speed App, Digibank, let's go!
Thank you for staying with the best, and it's time for the latest from the world of sports.
Yes, now we already know the news that Kwesi Nyantakyi has instructed his lawyers to appeal the life ban and also close to $500,000 fine handed him by FIFA for breaching the code of ethics. Now, Nyantakyi has described the punishment as unfair, harsh, and also unwarranted, and so he's heading to the Court of Arbitration of Sport. But veteran football administrator Nana Faith says Nyantakyi should hush up and accept the punishment.
That's cheap talk. That's a dead man's dialogue. Anybody can talk. A baby can talk. A madman talks. A woman talks. A man talks. So talk is cheap. What is he going to do? What is he going to do?
He's going to cast.
To do what?
To appeal.
Appeal what?
Against the
Is it not true that we saw him on TV? Is it not true that he said some of the things that they said he said? Is it not true that he took the money? So what is his problem? What is he going to appeal against? Look, the gentleman takes between, I think it's, if I stand to be corrected, I think he takes about $300,000 a year from FIFA. Are we aware of that? And besides that, when you break it down, it's about $25,000 a month. $25,000. You take more money than the government, and then you are going to sit down and bring down a president of a nation, the current president. You are nothing but a traitor to your race.
Everybody can talk. Talk is cheap.
Ridwan with the latest from the world of sports. Now, barely 2 weeks after Joy News reported a Class 1 boy in a school at Tema had been left traumatized after a cleaner in his school sexually abused him, there's yet again another report of defilement as 3 children have been allegedly defiled by one Kwabena Asenso, a taxi driver believed to be in his 40s at Suswanso in the Tano North Municipal Assembly in the Bono Ahafo region. One of the 3 children, aged between 9 and 11 years, was said to have fainted after the incident in school, with the others left troubled. Let's speak to our Bono Ahafo regional correspondent, Precious Semevo, who's been on this beat for us for details. Precious, so you've been following up on this. Who is this Kwabena Asenso, and how is he related to these children, and how was he able to carry out all his plans?
Well, Kwabena Asenso, as you rightly said, is also a resident of Suswanso in the Tano North and a taxi driver. He resides in the same neighborhood as the kids and their parents. The kids often calls him Wafa Asenso in the neighborhood, so they have a lot of respect for him. Anytime he calls them to send them, they oblige to his request. Now, according to the kids that I spoke to, Kwabena Asenso lures them either to his room, in his car, or takes them to a teak plantation in the neighborhood, and then defilement. Now, I spoke to some of the kids, and they have been narrating the ordeal they went through in the hands of Kwabena Asenso.
Papa Asenso kase mama jenkota de melen timko na kasa na menchocho na kwatman na mchochuman na denensa womas.
He sent me on an errand after school. When I got to his room, he asked me to stroke his penis, and he inserted his finger into my vagina. He told me if I tell anyone, I would die. I decided to report because I felt ill, and they asked what the problem was. He has done this to me at least 4 times.
He sent me on an errand. When I returned, he locked his door and instructed me to stroke his penis. He also inserted his finger into my vagina. It was painful, but he warned me not to tell anyone about it.
Their father has been demanding stiff punishment for this perpetrator. We'll get details in our subsequent bulletins. It's time now to check out what's trending on social media maps.
Wendy Shay is trending after asking Miss G, or after telling Miss G that who is Wendy Shay is a dumb question. At Taylor Mockery says she vexed because she they expect by now people know she popular. So who is Wendy Shay? That what? And this one is from at Real Akom, who says I think Wendy Shay wasn't prepared for the interview. She was in a state of nervous tension. To get that full interview, you can go to our Facebook page, Joy News on TV, and Joy 99.7 FM on our Facebook page.
There's more news also when you log on to myjoyonline.com. I am Memefa Apau. Thanks for your company.
That's the